going to give you a quick primer on how to do a dental formula. And we'll use the coyote again here. So we have, you want a complete set of upper and lower teeth, or if once you're a little bit more experienced, you can scavenge things in the woods that don't have teeth. You just have to know a little bit about roots and stuff like that. But anyway, let's not worry about that. Let's start with the upper tooth row. And so mammals are what we call heterodont, and so they have different shapes of teeth. They're also diphyodont, which means that in general they have two sets of teeth. And there's going to be an important exception that we'll talk about in just a second. And so as we move from the anterior to the posterior, you have incisors, and some of these are broken off. Incisors are generally spatulate, which means they're used for kind of like taking chunks off of something. So like you think of an apple and how we use our incisors for taking a bite out of an apple. Okay. So incisors are always in the premaxilla. Okay, so you would count just one quadrant. Okay, and then at the end you would multiply by 2. And so here we have 1, 2, 3 upper incisors, and you would write this as a fraction. So a set of 4 fractions. The first set being incisors, the second set being canines, the third set being premolars, the fourth set being molars. So in the numerator of the first fraction, you would write 3. You move on to canines, and there's 1. Rule of thumb for canines, there's always 1 or 0, and you always add you include zeros. For example, in rodents, rodents don't have canines, and so 0 canines is a diagnostic. So if you see 0, 0 for canines, you're likely looking at a rodent or a rabbit. Okay, and then you have premolars behind the canines, so you would start counting premolars. Now this gets tricky because where do premolars end and molars begin is a little bit challenging. Okay, now there's one true answer, and that is that we only get one set of molars. And so if this is the only tooth that's ever been in this position, it is a molar. Now you can't always tell by looking at it, and sometimes you just have to memorize, or you can use some different rules of thumb. One rule of thumb is premolars are always in front of or anterior to molars, so you could start counting premolar, molar, and work your way towards the middle. So that's one strategy. 2, molars generally, not always, but generally have more cusps. So you see a lot more cusps here than premolars. So molars generally have more cusps. Those are the only real, rules of thumb that you can use unless you know whether this is the second tooth in that position, which would make it a premolar. Now with canids or carnivores, we have another thing that we can use. Carnivores have something called a carnassial pair. And so the carnassial pair is that pair of teeth that does most of the work, okay? And so when you put this together, that would be this tooth and this tooth, okay? And the carnassial pair is always the upper P4, the upper 4th premolar, and the lower 1st molar. So P4, M1 is how we would do that, upper P4, lower M1, okay? So if you know those are the carnassials, you can add that into your dental formula. So you know that's a P4. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 premolars, and then that would be 1, 2 molars. Okay. Right. Okay. So those are your uppers. Okay. So 3, 1, 4, 2. So you would write that down in the upper tooth row. And then you'd move to the lower tooth row. Do the same thing. Again, these are broken, but you've got 1, 2, 3 lower incisors, 1 canine, Now this canine's split. It's split because of the way it dried too fast. And so a lot of times when you get processed skulls, if it dries too fast, that canine will split. And so that's a pretty common problem with skull prep. Okay. Anyway, so that's one lower canine. Now we remember that we said this is a lower M1, okay? So that's a molar. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 premolars. And then that's the first molar, 1, 2, 3. So 4 premolars and 3 molars, okay? And then you would do the math to add up the total number of teeth in the upper and lower tooth row. You'd find that you have 20 teeth in the upper tooth row, 22 teeth in the lower, and you get 42 teeth for the canidae. And that's how you write a dental formula. Well, actually, to write it, you'd go 3. Let's just kind of put it all together. Sorry about that. You'd have 3, 3, 1, 1, 4, 4, 2, 3, and then equals 42 teeth. Okay, that's how you would do it.